Hi there! In today's video, we are taking a look at the OpenAI Whisper API and the ChatGPT API and the Images API. And what I would like to do with these is I would like to create an automatic YouTube video title, description, and thumbnail generator. So the idea is that I could give this program a video file and then it would automatically create the title, description, and thumbnail. So let's try and do that. So the first thing we have to do is we have to create a transcription of the video. And that is what we can use the audio API or the Whisper model to do. So let's try and do that. So here is the documentation for the creation of a transcript. So we have to post a request to this API endpoint and then set some headers and include the file in the request. So let's do that. Now I'm using PHP as usual, so I'll create a new file here called whisper.php. And what we are going to do here is we are going to make a curl request using PHP to the API. So I will start by saying ch equals curl init, and I will pass in the URL to the endpoint. And then I will say curl set opt array. And I will pass the ch here and then an array of options. Now what do we need to pass in here? First we have to set the headers. So we will say curl opt HTTP header. And this can take an array, which the first one will be content type, and that will be multipart / form data. And then we have to set the authorization header. And it will be bearer, and then we will have the API key in here. And I'll get it from a file right now, so that you're not going to see it in the video. Okay, and then next we have to pass the file and the model. So we will do that in curl opt post fields. And this will be an array as well. So we will have the file, which will be some kind of file, which I have to create. And the model will be whisper1. And the file we have to create with file equals curl file create. And we will have to pass in the file, so the audio file. And the MIME type will be audio/mp3. And the file name will be just audio.mp3. Okay. And of course, when we send a post request, we have to say curl opt post is true. And also we want to return the value from this API. So we have to say curl opt return transfer is true. So that should pretty much be everything I need. Of course, we have to create the audio file because now it's an MP4, but we want an MP3. So let's do that. I will just use ffmpeg to do this. So I will say just exec ffmpeg I, and I will pass in the video file. And then I will say, I should probably change the bitrate because I don't want to create a very large file. So I will say AB 32K. I think it's this way. So -A means audio and B means bitrate, and then 32K means the bitrate. And then I will have to pass in the output file here. So I will just call it audio.mp3. And in fact, I can just call it here, audio.mp3. Now, maybe it would be better to say this in some temporary location, but for now, I will do it like this. And then, of course, we have to get the response from this. So response will be curl exec ch. And there's one more thing I want to do, because there is, first of all, the language. Now, this is very interesting. I tried this already with a simple test audio, and when I didn't set the language, it actually translated the English video into Finnish, which is my native language. I don't know where it got that, maybe from my profile or something. I don't understand. Or maybe it detected from my accent that this should be Finnish for some reason. It's very weird. So I will set the language as well. And there is the response format. So I will use the text because I just want the plain text of what is in the video. Now there's actually an SRT in here, so you can actually create subtitle files with this automatically. So that's very cool. But we'll use text right now. So I will set here language is English and response format is text. And this should be modal. Okay, that should be it. So let's try and run this and see if we actually get some text from here. So let's just run php whisper.php. we got a warning. Undefined variable video file. So I forgot to set video file is ChatGPT WordPress 1.mp4, which is the file over here of my video. So let's try and do this. Unrecognized option A. Maybe it was this way. No, let me Google this. How to change bitrate of audio with FFmpeg. Because the other way, it's BA. So set the bitrate of the audio to 32K. And let's try this one more time. Okay, so now we are converting the video file into an audio file. Now this should take maybe around a minute. So I will continue when it's done. Alright, we are now done with the encoding of the video and we are sending the request to OpenAI. So let's see what we get from here. Alright, the request is now done, but it would have been beneficial if I echoed out the response so I could actually see what I got. So now I wasted this whole response. So let's echo out the response and see what we get in there. And I don't want to convert this video anymore, so I will just comment this out and that should work. So let's try this one more time. So now we are only sending the audio file to OpenAI API. Alright, and now we got the result. That took around a minute, I would say. A minute or two, actually longer than I expected. So here we have this transcript of the video. In today's video, I'm going to build a WordPress plugin that will integrate ChatGPT into your website. So I want to have some kind of button here on the bottom left corner where I can click and then open up ChatGPT and so on. So this looks pretty much perfect, just like I talked in the video. So the next step would be to convert this into a video title and description. Now I think this is going to be too much data for one prompt. So I can't just say to ChatGPT, create a description from this, because this is too long. This is 26,000 characters. It might just fit in there, but I would like to make this so that it will actually work even with longer text than this. So here's the idea that I have. I will now save this as the transcript. And then what I will do is I will split this transcript into smaller parts. And then I will send a request to ChatGPT from all of those different parts and say, please summarize this part. And then when I ask it to summarize the next part, I add the previous summarization to that. And then when I get all of the summarizations, I put them together and then I ask ChatGPT, create a title based on this. So let's try and do that. So I will create a new file here and I will call this splitter.php. And what will we do here? Let's first say that the text will be file get contents of transcript.txt. And then I want to split this into chunks. So what I will do is I will say chunks is str split text. I will split it into 10,000 characters. And then I will do for each of the chunks as chunk. Let's just do echo chunk for now. And let's see what this does. So this creates a chunk like this, and then another chunk, and another chunk. Now here I might have a problem. Now in this case it did split it just in the end of a sentence, but I think sometimes it might not because it's per character. So I want to fix that, although I'm not sure if that really matters in the end. Let's say if I add here like 24 in the end, and I do it again. So now you can see that the first chunk ends at next we would like to be, and then the next one starts with able to send a message. So how could we fix that? We could do something like dot position is strrpos, so the last occurrence in chunk of dot. So this is the position in the chunk where there is the last dot. And then we could say that the main text will be substr of the chunk from 0 to dot position. And then we can say extra text equals substr chunk from the dot position to the end of the text. And we can move this down here and we can initialize it here. Extra text is empty. And then in the echo we can say extra text and concatenate it with the main text. So I think this would now cut the chunk until the next to the last sentence and then save the rest of the text. And then in the next chunk, it will again do from the beginning of the chunk to the end, but in the beginning it will add the last chunk's last sentence, which might be partial. So this should work. Now I might need to add some plus or minus 1 to these dot positions, but let's see what this will do. Okay, so now we have, and I click again, it will hide. So now we can hide it and show it. Great. Now the dot moved here. So what I need to do is add here +1. And here I have to add, actually I want to add here a space as well, because there might be dots in the middle of like a URL or something. So we will look for a dot and a space, which will be the end of a sentence. So this will then have to be +2, because we don't want to include the dots and the space in the beginning of the next chunk. So let's do that. So now it will look like this. So now we have great dot, and then, so what is next? So now it should work pretty well. And here we have, so let's do this, and we will post here, and so on. Okay, so I will actually turn this into a function. I will call it strSplit nice, and I will give it a string of the text, and it will return an array. So we will say return is an empty array, and then we will add this into the array. And then we will return the return. Okay, so now I can pass in any text and it will return an array of the chunks. Now I could actually pass this as the length. Okay, so what do we have to do then? Now we should send an API request to ChatGPT so that it will create a summarization of one of these chunks. So let's do that. Let's create a new file here called chatgpt.php. And I will implement here the ChatGPT API. So it will be basically the same as the Whisper API, but a little bit different. So the endpoint will be different. The endpoint will be over here in chat. It will be this. And we don't need to create a file. And the content type will be application/JSON. And I need to get my API key. But in the post fields of this, we have to set just a JSON string. So we will say JSON encode, and we will pass in an array with a model, which will be GPT 3.5 Turbo. And we have to pass in the messages, which will be an array of objects where we have a role, which will be user, and we have a content, which will be our message. And I will convert this into a function as well. Send ChatGPT message, string message, and I'll just pass in the API key right now, like that. And then the response format will be this. So we only care about the content, so it will be choices 0 message content. So we will first decode the JSON. So JSON equals JSON decode response. And we will return JSON choices 0 and what was it? Message content. So message and content. Now, if there's an error, we get some kind of error here. So we should check that. So let's add this here. If this is not set, then let's just throw an exception or something. Error in OpenAI request. And we will just, add the response here. So we get the error. And this should return a string. So let's create some file here. Let's call this app.php. And let's include all of these files in here. And I will actually move the API key away from these files. These will only have the function. And I will move it into this file. And actually, I should convert this Whisper into a function as well. So I will do that as well. So I will say function transcribe will take a string of a video file, and it will return a string of the transcription. So then I will move all of these inside here, and I will uncomment this, and I will remove that one. And I will actually call this an audio file. So the audio file will be the video file appended with MP3. So then I can do this. I can pass it in here, audio file, and I can say if the file does not exist, the audio file, then we will convert it. Otherwise, we will use the original. And here should be a dot as well. And then we, of course, have to pass in the API key as well. And then we should return the response instead of echoing it out. Okay, that should work now. So now in our app, let's now first get the transcript from the transcript.txt, so we don't have to make an API request every time. So let's say transcript equals file get contents of transcript.txt. And then we will say chunks equals str split nice transcript. And we'll pass in the 10,000. And then we can loop through all these chunks. And then we can send a request to ChatGPT to create the summarization of this. So let's say prompt is what? Let's add first something like start transcript and a new line. And then we will add the chunk here. And we add another new line. And then we will add end transcript. And then after this, we will add please create a summarization of the above transcript. Use 5 sentences or less. And then we will send this prompt to ChatGPT. So we will say response equals send ChatGPT message, and we will pass in the prompt and the API key. And then let's just echo out this response. And let's add some new lines after this. And now let's try this out. What kind of summarization of the video we will get. So if I now run php app.php, we should get something. Let's see what we get. In this video, the speaker creates a WordPress plugin that integrates ChatGPT into a website. They add a button to the bottom left corner. Okay, that's the first one. Then the second one is the transcript details the steps to create a chatbot that uses OpenAI's GPT technology. The author discusses the creation of a function to add messages and an event listener for sending messages. Okay, so now what I forgot to do is add the previous summary to the next summary. So let's initialize that here. Let's say previous summary is an empty string. And then we will add the previous summary here. And then after we get an actual summary, then we add it to the previous summary. So we will say previous summary will be previous summary. And we will add a new line, and we will add the response to this, and a new line, and end previous summary. And then we could add here something else. Let's call it extra text. And then I will initialize that here as well. Extra text is an empty string. And then I'll add here extra text to be use the previous summary as context for the new summary, but don't include anything from the previous summary in the new summary. Okay, so let's try this out. Is this any different? So we'll run this and let's wait for the responses. All right, here is our summary. The video shows how to build a WordPress plugin that integrates ChatGPT into a website with a button to open the chatbot. Okay, and so on. The video shows how to create a function to send a message to ChatGPT API and retrieve a response. A new REST API endpoint is created to send a message to ChatGPT API. All right. The video shows how to create a functional chatbot with plain text response using ChatGPT API in JavaScript. The chatbot is built to answer questions related to a website's content by crawling the website for information. The source code for the project can be found in the creator's GitHub repository. Okay, that's pretty good. So now we have a summary of the video. So now we should create the title and the description, and actually the thumbnail as well. So how do we do that? Let me first do this. I want to make just one summary of this video, not separate summaries, because sometimes it adds the same information twice and it's a bit weird. So I will combine all these responses and then create a new ChatGPT prompt based on that. So let's do that. So let's say combined summary is an empty string, and I will add the response to the combined summary. And then in the end, I should have all the summaries combined into one variable. And then I can create a new prompt, which will be start summary and a new line. And then I will add in here the combined summary and a new line and end summary. And then I will say, please create a new summary of the above summary but make it more, what is the word I'm looking for? Concise, not concise, natural, something like this. And then we will send this to ChatGPT. So response will be prompt and API key, and then we will echo the response. So let's see now if we will get a nice summary of the video that I have created. Okay, and here we have a response. In the video tutorial, viewers are shown how to create a WordPress plugin that seamlessly incorporates ChatGPT onto their website. The plugin creates a button that users can click to open up a chat box and interact with. The video also covers styling of the button and chat box, including the addition of Angular.js. What? I have never used Angular.js in my life. For an enhanced appearance. To connect to the ChatGPT API, the video demonstrates the creation of a PHP function that sends a message and receives a response. Okay, that's weird. Where did it get Angular.js? That is very interesting. I wonder if it came from this prompt. Like I told it to make it more natural. Maybe it thought that Angular.js is more natural than jQuery. Okay, now I will actually convert this into a function as well. So this will be a summarizer. So let's call it function summarize, and it will get the string of the transcript, and it will return a string of the summary. And I will paste all of this in here, and I will return the response. And I need the API key as well. And I will save this into its own file again, summarizer.php. So now what we can do is we can get the transcript, and then we can say summary equals summarize transcript with the API key. And then we can send a new request to ChatGPT to create a video title and description. So let's do this. Let's say title prompt will be this. We start again with start summary and a new line. I'll actually do it just like this. And here I will add the summary. And then I will say end summary. And then I will say the above is a summary of a YouTube video. Please create a title for the video that a potential viewer might want to click on. I think that's a pretty good prompt for a title. And let's create a description prompt. The above is a summary of a YouTube video. Please create a video description for it. Create the description in the first person, okay? And then how about thumbnail prompt? So let's do thumbnail prompt. Now we didn't implement the thumbnail generation yet, but we will do that next. We would say the above is a summary of a YouTube video. Please create a very descriptive description of a thumbnail image that could be used for the video. Start your response with a YouTube video thumbnail with. Okay, and then let's see the responses to these. So we will say title equals send ChatGPT message, which will be title prompt, and we will pass the API key in there. And I will do the same thing with the description and the thumbnail. So description and thumbnail. And then I will just echo title is title, description is description, and thumbnail is thumbnail. Okay, now this should work. So let's first take a look at the actual title that I used for this video. So it's this video right here, creating a WordPress plugin that adds ChatGPT to your website. And let's look at the description. Did I write something there? In today's video, I create a WordPress plugin that adds a custom ChatGPT chatbot in the corner of your website. Okay, just one sentence. So let's see what this program does. So let's run php app.php. And I have an error on line 9 because I forgot to include my summarizer. Let's run this again. And now we are doing something. So now let's wait for maybe 30 seconds to a minute and let's see what we get. All right, and we got a response. So what did we get? Title: learn how to integrate ChatGPT into your WordPress website with this plugin tutorial. Okay, well that's pretty good, but that's pretty long. How many characters is that? 84. Well, it's not too long, it's pretty good. Description: In this video, I show viewers how to create a plugin that integrates ChatGPT into a WordPress website. I start by building a chat box that opens when a button on the bottom left corner of the page is clicked. The chat box contains a scrolling area, input text area, and a send button. Then I add jQuery code, now we're using jQuery, that toggles the chat box when the button is clicked. Okay. Overall, this project is a great way to enhance your WordPress website's functionality and engage with your users in a more interactive way. You can check out the full code on my GitHub page. Well, it's pretty good, but a bit weird as well. A bit too impersonal. Thumbnail. A YouTube video thumbnail with a dark blue background featuring a chat box with ChatGPT's logo and text WordPress plugin overlaid on the top left corner. On the bottom right corner, there is a button that reads Chat with us and an arrow icon. The chat history shows multiple messages between a user and the assistant. Overall, the image gives an impression of a sleek and professional chatbot integration into a website. Okay, so now the next step is to actually create this thumbnail. I'm not sure if this is a very good description of a thumbnail, but let's see what happens. So let's create a new file again, called image.php. And we will do the same thing here. So let's copy ChatGPT. And what will this have? Let's go back to the API reference and go to images. Now, this is the URL for the generations. So we'll pass this in here. And we are going to use application.json, same authorization. And then we will have this, a prompt and an N for the number of images to create and the size. So let's do that. So we will have prompt will be the message. Let's call it prompt. And we will have an N, which will be 1. We just want one image. And the last one was size. So let's create the biggest size right now. So 1024 x 1024. Okay, and what else do we need? That's it. Then the response will be this. So it will be an object with data and it will have another object with URL. So we have to get JSON data 0 URL. So this will be data 0 and URL. And we will return that. Now actually I want to save this URL. So I will just say copy this one to, let's make a folder called images / let's make a unique ID and let's call it a JPEG. And I'll create that folder here called images. And I will save this as image file. Image file is that, and I will return the image file. Great. And this will be called create image. So now in our app.php, after we get the thumbnail description, we will send it to the image creation. So I will say image equals create image. And we will pass in the thumbnail. Let's call it thumbnail description. And we'll pass in the API key. And then we will just say echo image, thumbnail image. And let's run this one more time and see what happens. Okay, I made a mistake here. So first of all, I changed this from thumbnail to thumbnail description, so I had to change it here, and I forgot to include again my image.php. So let me do this again. Okay, and now we got a response, and currently we are sending the request to the images API. So let's see what kind of image we get. All right. Now if we check in the images folder, we have an image here. So let's go take a look at what that looks like. Here it is. Okay, this is our thumbnail. Well, that is terrible. What is this? Now, the OpenAI Images API often creates terrible images like this. Now, let's see what was the prompt that ChatGPT created. A YouTube video thumbnail with a developer's computer screen displaying the Neve WordPress theme and a ChatGPT chat box on the website. The screen shows the chat box positioned at the bottom left corner. Okay. Now this is not the greatest description of a thumbnail, so then the thumbnail is not that great either. So what would be cool here is that if we would have some sort of list of good titles, descriptions, and thumbnail descriptions, and then we could pass these to ChatGPT and kind of teach it what is good, and then it could spit out a better result. Because I think it doesn't know how to create a good prompt for the images API. So this is not gonna work. Okay, I will make one more change here. I will change this start your response with a YouTube video thumbnail. I will just say an image of, and then I will say please create a very descriptive description of a simple thumbnail image. Now, I'm not sure if a very descriptive description and simple go together, but let's see what will happen with this one. And let's try to run this again and see if that produces any better results. All right, and we have another thumbnail image now. So let's take a look at this. Now, this is starting to look a bit better already, but what is hot hiak? Why didn't it write this here? I, da, then, how, boo. That is very weird. But this mascot here is pretty cool. I might use this in some video. Now, of course, this is the wrong ratio of an image because you can only create square images with this API. But of course, we could crop this and then put it as a YouTube video thumbnail. Now, let's do one more change here. I will say, refrain from describing any text in the image because the AI is not great at generating text in images. So let's try this again. Okay, now it created an image of a computer screen with a WordPress website in the background and ChatGPT logo in the foreground. A toggle button labeled Chat with GPT. Now this is text. It didn't listen to my prompt. So let's take a look. Okay, now again, this is a terrible image. Can I do something? If I go to image, if I send my own prompt, what will happen? Echo create image. And I'll send my own prompt here with API key. An image of a shocked individual looking at their computer screen, amazed at how well the chatbot works. So let's try if my custom prompt works. So let's run php image.php. And we have a thumbnail. Now this is more like it. Oot boo. So I think we really need some kind of training material on YouTube thumbnails and titles and descriptions. And then it would do better. But I think I will end today's video here. Now I will do a little bit of cleaning up of the code and I will post it on my GitHub page. So if you want to try it out and maybe make some improvements, then you can do it over there. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.